Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here with you, walking through the journey through the rescue of Exodus. And as we walk through Exodus, we're in Exodus chapter 2, and we were just introduced to this community of Israel. And they had just been taken to Egypt because of a famine, and Joseph was there, and his brothers came at the end of Genesis. Now we have Exodus, and now years have gone by, many years, 400 years. And generation upon generation, and there was a new ruler that came into and that didn't know Joseph, that didn't know the importance and the authority of his family in Egypt. And so they became, tired of these Hebrews that were growing and multiplying. And so they started to oppress them. Enter in the rescue of God. And he does it in an incredible way as he points to and delivers from and rescues a small part of their clan, a small part of their people, meaning one person, Moses. He sets him into the place of how he's going to do it for the whole. He does it for Moses, he does it for the whole. He does it for Moses, he does it for the nation of Israel, the Hebrews in Egypt. And if you don't really kind of catch on to what I'm saying there, that's why we have chapter 2. We're going to dive deep into this because there's so many spots in the details of God's rescue, of God's foretelling his rescue, of why he is delivering, giving birth, giving life to Moses, just as he will deliver, give birth, bring to life his people, Israel. Chapter 2. Beginning at verse 1. Now, a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman. And we have to stop there real quickly. Who is Levi? Who is the Levite woman? This is important in the fact that Levi obviously was one of the sons of Jacob. So he's coming from that tribe. But that tribe was blessed and pushed towards, you are going to be the priests, Levites. And so they were for the care of God's presence with his people. So first and foremost, Moses being a Levite, one who will care for and lead the presence of God with his people. There's number one. I know this is maybe going to get old as I walk through this chapter 2, but it's amazing the detail of what God puts in place. Of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months because the edict was out there that all these Hebrew boys would be taken, that would be killed, right, by Pharaoh. But when she could hide him no longer, after 3 months, she got a papyrus basket. Now this is truly amazing. The only time that this basket word is used in the Hebrew, it's used in Genesis 6 and 7. It's the only other time in the Old Testament. What is Genesis 6 and 7? And what is this word? It's called an ark. Noah built a basket, a papyrus basket, a huge basket pitched into cypress wood. But this basket, this word basket, is used as ark. Just as God delivered and saved his people through water, so he'll do it with Moses through an ark, through this basket. She got a papyrus ark, a basket, for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds. This is a foreshadowing, the reeds, that actually out of this water, out of these reeds, he will deliver his people. This is the same word. Reeds is actually the Reed Sea, not the Red Sea. The Reed Sea, that's how it's actually translated. We call it the Red Sea. But Moses brings the people to the Reed Sea, and the waters are parted, and they are delivered, given birth, rescued through water. Moses was put in a basket, and she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds, along the bank of the Nile. His sister Miriam stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the ark, the basket, among the reeds, and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it, and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him, had compassion for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered, and the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Moses actually means born of, right? Born out of. That's the Egyptian translation there. Moses is born out of the water, rescued out of the water, given life out of the water. We see that in the ark. We see that in the sea. We see that throughout. Unless you are born of the water and of the Spirit, you have no place in the kingdom of God. Jesus picked that up as well. Water is important, the means of grace. Unless you are born of the water, baptism, drawn out of the water, brought to life out of the water. That's our baptisms. Dead to sin, but alive, brought life out of the water. This is what we get to see with Moses. So we go to that next narrative, and we get to see that Moses grew. One of the things that's really neat to see is that through women, Pharaoh being this kind of tyrannical power in Egypt, through women, right, the midwives, through Moses' mother, through Pharaoh's daughter, through Moses' sister, we get to see that the plan that man had was thwarted. And Moses was now brought out as a life, a valuable life, that's brought out of the water, but now in the house of Pharaoh, in the house of the power, in the education of the power of the world. Moses brought as a Hebrew to a place that God would design. Amazing. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were. This is when he was 40 years old. We get to know that from Acts chapter 7, that he was 40 years old when this happened. He went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Glancing this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us?" What a prophecy. Moses being ruler and judge, actually a deliverer, as what we would say that word means, a deliverer of his people. And this guy's asking, "Who made you deliverer over us?" Well, God's going to do that in the next chapter, and 40 years later, when he comes back to Egypt. But here it is, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must have become known." When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. He fled into the wilderness. He fled into the Sinai region. I mean, there is so much detail. Sorry to laugh at this, but this is amazing. God raised him to life out of the water, planted him in Pharaoh's for 40 years, and then he fled into the desert. He fled into the wilderness. He went wandering into Midian, which is in the Sinai Peninsula. Sound familiar? Well, if you know the story, here is out of Egypt, God brings his people into the Sinai Peninsula for 40 years. This is what Moses is. He's 40 years old, but then he flees into this wilderness, and then he works there for this father-in-law for 40 years as a shepherd, leading the sheep around the Sinai Peninsula. God preparing him for the work that he would do to deliver his people. When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by the well. Verse 16. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. Hold on to that for when Moses is leading in giving water to the flock of Israel. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" he asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat." Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become an alien in a foreign land," although it was really his people. Midian is one of those sons, as we get to see, excuse me, of Abraham's younger sons. Midian was Abraham's younger sons. So he's back to his people, back to the covenant, back to the blessing of the people that God had made covenant with Abraham in Genesis 15. He's not an alien. He's where he should be, where God had appointed. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become an alien in a foreign land." During that long period, 40 years, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. But he's already been concocting a plan of giving birth, giving life to Moses, drawing him out of the water for the purposes of planting him into the house of Pharaoh, to really take him and drive him into the wilderness, to have him wander and shepherd a flock for 40 years in preparation, because he heard the Israelites cry, and he's going to call Moses, "Moses, go to Egypt and let my people go." Don't want to steal the thunder of chapter 3, but thanks for joining me for the Word of God today. Amazing how God knows the plan, concocts the plan, designs the plan, and executes it in Moses for the rescue of his people. He's done that for you and I too. Designed a plan. Jesus is our rescue. And so enjoy being a baptized child of God. You've been drawn out of water for the purposes of living for the Lord this day. Have a blessed day.